PFT with Mike Florio, the Unbuttoned Podcast, Football Night in America, Sunday Night Football. Chris Sims is with us here on God Bless Football. We have something else we want to discuss with you besides football, outside of football. We'll get to that in a second. I am wondering here, Aaron Rodgers has looked really, really good the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Should the Jets want Aaron to come back?
I mean, that's a big – it's a big – future discussion, big picture of what you want the Jets to be. And I think a little bit of that's going to be detailed by the new GM and the new head coach, right? And I would think that a lot of GMs and new head coaches are going to be like, man, I don't want to have to start, and then I got to deal with Aaron Rodgers and all that comes along with it, because there's a lot. There's a lot right now. I mean, he's a distraction, whether he wants to say it or not. He is a distraction. And he could still throw the football, but there's issues still remain about the things we've talked about. We've seen the ball go down the field a little bit, definitely better, right? Can he consistently do that against some of the better teams in football? That's where I don't know. Right? Do you want to start a new future for your football team? I guess what I'm saying, if I was making that decision, I would say no. I don't want it back. We tried it. It didn't work. We're going to move on. We're going to build our team for the future here. We have some good young pieces that we like, and we're going to build around that. So that's what I would say. But, yeah, I mean, again, I don't think there's going to be anybody that's going to come in there and really want to deal with that is what I would say, really, Stugotz.
Sims, do you remember your Madden ratings? I only ask because I want to find out if the Jets would trade for you or not, because that's apparently how they do things now.
I know. I heard, and I heard about that story. We talked about it a little this morning with Florio on Pro Football Talk. My best Madden rating, I think it was 86. It was like the year I lost my spleen, but we had just got to the playoffs the year before. That's as good as it got. So I don't know what Aaron Rodgers is rated on Madden right now, but I don't have any. I should not be named in the same sentence as Aaron Rodgers as long as we're talking about quarterbacks. I will say that.
But Chris, here's the problem. And I've said this before, you can't run a team like that. The Jets fans care more about the organization than the owner does. They take it more seriously than the owner does. And that's frustrating as a fan, man.
I understand it. And this is the problem, too, when you make, right, it seems like rash decisions in firing people. And it's happened a lot here with the Jets over the last few years. Let alone, things have been somewhat dysfunctional there. And now those people get out of the building and they tell all their coaching friends and their coaching tree, and word starts to filter out throughout the NFL, let alone they're bitter about the way they were treated or fired or whatever by the Jets either way, the Woody Johnson, the Johnson family. So, Woody Johnson, they're going to be under the microscope. They are, between stories like that, the sons that are 18 years old giving game balls out in the locker room. Those are things that are just not normal things you hear within a successful football organization. Or the coach being fired, right? And when you're one game out and it's still early in the season and one game away from taking the lead in the AFC East. So the Jets are not going to be a top destination for the coaches that have options. That is what I can tell you. But as we know, there's going to be one or two that are going to go, wait, I don't have options. The Jets are the only place that really wants me. And there's only 32 of these, and I'm going to go there.
You surprised Belichick took that Carolina job?
I am surprised. Now, do I believe he's going to stay there long? Absolutely not. I mean, the buyout tells you everything. Starting this June, he can be bought out for couch cushion change from NFL owners. I mean, come on, $1 million? Belichick has got $1 million of cash he could put in his pocket and pay that off. I mean, that's nothing. He's worth hundreds of millions. Like, that's nothing. So that alone tells me he doesn't want to stay there long term. He was shocked, I know, and so were people around him, that there wasn't more of a calling for him to be the head coach. So, am I shocked he's going to college? Definitely. Did I think there'd be a team out there that would latch on to Belichick? I did think that. But I'm not shocked that the NFL rejected Belichick. His age, his control, his demeanor, everything that comes along with him, yeah, there's going to be some organizations that are going to be like, wait, we don't want to deal with that. We don't know how much longer he's going to coach, and we're not just going to give him free reign to take over everything if he's only going to be here for 2 or 3 years, and let alone this too. And this is the other aspect. Belichick has treated most of the NFL like shit for the last 20 years. And I don't mean it in disrespectful. It's just the Patriots are so, uptight, quiet-lipped. They don't talk to anybody. He doesn't let coaches talk to other coaches on the field pregame, right? There's certainly a lot of coaches think there's a lot of arrogance that came out of New England over the last 20 years. I've said this on TV. I mean, man, over the last 20 years, if you gave me $1 for every coach I talked to, New England, yeah, I forgot they invented football. Oh, yeah, New England thinks they know everything. Oh, yeah, I know. Belichick's got all the answers, all of that. They've burned bridges there. So there's a lot of people in football that just wouldn't want to deal with Belichick in general.
Chris, I will tell you this. Now, whether you believe it or not, that's obviously up to you. But Mike Lombardi, who he hired to be the general manager of North Carolina football, which I think is the blueprint moving forward. I think they're laying down the foundation of how college programs are going to look. Lombardi said he would not have signed the contract if he felt like Belichick was going to leave after a year or two. So
yeah, I know. And listen, I'm friends with Mike, and Mike's the man in my opinion.
Yeah, he's great.
He's somebody I talk about and talk football with a lot. So, and we see the game the same way. And when he does say stuff like that, I do go, ooh, all right, maybe. But again, too, I don't know. When it comes to business, I wouldn't exactly trust Bill Belichick in every word he says. We've seen he can dodge questions and lie and bullshit pretty good to the media. And that's what I kind of find funny about the whole thing. He doesn't talk to the media for the last 15 years, and now he's a media darling telling everybody about how every team should play and coach and do all this. And I think it's very, very hypocritical, honestly.
All right. Wow. I mean, you don't mince your words, Sims. I love you.
No, I don't.
Chris, the Lions, are they too banged up, especially on the defensive side? Are they too banged up to win the Super Bowl?
I don't want to say that, but it's the first time I've questioned it. Right. It's definitely gotten to a point. I know everybody
it's I've had fun with.
I know I've had fun with this all week because I always next man up, right? And I get it. It's cool, and I know we all want to latch onto that. But let me just give you a little story and an inkling into next man up. Okay, next man up, right? After you get past the first guy to the second guy is usually there's a difference. There's a reason he's a starter and that's a backup. Once you get to the second guy and now you start going to the third guy, then it becomes oh, wait, third guy's playing? I mean, we cut him last year. He wasn't even on a team. Now he's starting for us? So, you could say next man up all you want. There's a big drop-off, and that's what you worry about with them. It's banged up, and it's not I don't feel horrible about their starters on the D-line and things like that. It's affected their depth to where when they come off the field, you look at the second unit and you go, oh, my gosh, they have no chance against this offense or Josh Allen and this offensive line. And that's where you worry about it. They're going to have to adjust their style. And I don't know what that's going to be, Stugotz. That's going to be the interesting thing. Do they just go super aggressive with their offense and go, screw it, we're going to outscore you and we're going to play that style? Or will they go a little bit hey, we can run the ball and control the clock and do that. We're good enough to do that on the offense. And maybe we play that way and not put our defense out there as much. I'll be interested to see what Dan Campbell and company's approaches there in Detroit. I still believe in them. But as you know, with the injuries, I certainly don't think they're the best team in football right now. I think that title goes to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yep. What do you do? We'll get to the Eagles here in a minute. What do you do, though, if you're the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes? Do you rest him? Do you play him? What do you do there?
Well, I mean, it's going to be hard not to play him. He going to have to not.
Right.
Well, I've been around Mahomes too many times in my life, right, and gotten the chance to know him a little bit. He's a psycho. He's the psycho you want in a good way. He's a gym rat. He's obsessed. I mean, when I'm around them in Kansas City and Andy Reid, I don't know how many times Andy Reid's had to tell me, he's obsessed. Oh my gosh, he's all over everything. He's a gym rat. That's what he says. He'll cut your throat out to win the football game. He's that way. The big thing is let him play if he can do it. That's cool. But don't let him play if it's so bad to where we might sacrifice the big picture of things, right? Just to be the number 1 seed is not worth it just to go, well, now we don't even have Mahomes for the playoffs, right? Like, all right, whoop-de-fucking-do. You just proved last year you don't have to be the number 1 seed and you can win the Super Bowl. So don't make that the main objective. The main objective is to make sure 15 can play in the playoffs, because when you got him, you know you can beat anybody.
Billy, I heard when Sims was talking about his friendship with Mahomes there, the times that they have hung out, spent some time together. I heard that
best friends.
I heard a sound come out of your mouth. What was that?
Yeah. No, just I was impressed with all the famous friends he has. You know,
you want me to ask him to get him on the show? Like,
no, I don't know if I could do that. You know, but when I've gone there. I've interviewed him a handful of times now, and known Andy Reid for a long time. Kansas City, when I do go there, they're cool. They're cool. They trust me. And I think so they let me walk around the practice field and watch and be a little free. And I really appreciate it about them. And there's that Kansas City energy they have in that building is unlike any other.
Chris, walk me off the ledge. Why should I still believe in the Dolphins this year?
Oh, you shouldn't. Just fucking walk off the edge. Just walk in and hold a big weight while you're doing it, all right? Hold a big one. Tie it to your ankle. All right.
But if they beat the Niners, they have a 12% chance.
Sorry, that was just too easy. You set it up. You set it up too perfect there.
He knew he did.
It stinks. It stinks. They lost last week. Y'all played the Texans. You guys know that. You saw it, right? You still do have a chance. The Chargers lose tonight on Thursday Night Football to the Denver Broncos. I mean, that's going to make things interesting for that 7th spot, right? So there's still a way you can get in. You could be your defense plays good football. You still got playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. Billy, this is the big thing here. You know, I put some stuff on Instagram. I don't know if you saw that. I talked about the Dolphins a little this week, right? It's odd. Let me just say this, and I know who I'm labeled as here, but it's odd that the highest paid player on your team is the biggest question mark we have in big football games. That doesn't match up. Like, when I grew up, the Giants were never like, hey, we're worried about Lawrence Taylor this week. We got to come up with something we got to make sure he looks good. And it's hard to win games, okay, when it seems like the objective of the team is just to make one guy look good and functional and not get him hurt on a weekly basis. The NFL's hard enough, let alone to go in with a preconceived notion of how we're going to play the game. That's where it's tough. Let alone, again, your highest paid player is the guy that you never should have to worry about or game plan for. It'd just be like, no, you're good. We put you there. Win. And then we're going to figure out everything else with everybody else. And that's the unfortunate thing with the Dolphins, and the thing I'm going to question going forward until proven otherwise, Billy.
So when Mike McDaniel come out and he'll be like, oh, the guys were in the wrong spots. It's not Tua. It's just from your view covering for Tua.
It's always an excuse. I mean, it was an out route. One of them was an out route. Like he wasn't that much in the wrong spot. The ball was 10 feet behind him. I mean, come on. He wasn't that wrong. The one over the middle, the first interception, right? I mean, the guy made a good play. Tua didn't see him. He threw an interception. I don't know. The third one, he just, Tyreek should catch it. I get that. He had it in his hands, hold on to it. But you guys saw the play too. The ball was 10 yards underthrown. Right. Mm-hmm. He throws it out there. Tyreek's going to pull away, and who knows what happens. So, yeah, it's hard for me to believe that. And, yes, that's kind of the annoying thing about the Dolphins is there's always something like that said when it's to a bad game.
Chris, just quickly here, I want to give you 3 things that the media is saying and fans are saying down here in South Florida and see if you agree. The first one is Mike McDaniel should be fired.
What like, why? What?
3-12 against teams with winning with winning records. 2 playoff appearances.
And a big reason of that is because he's been handcuffed because he has to do it with a quarterback and had no choice. That's just always going to struggle in those type of games in that moment. That's just what it is. I mean, it doesn't matter whatever it is, right? So I don't agree with that. They've done special things on the offensive side of the football. I mean, everybody knows dealing with Mike McDaniel and that offense is a pain in the ass. So no, I don't agree with firing Mike McDaniel, not at all.
All right, the second one, which is it's a lot louder. There are a lot more people saying this. Chris Greer, the GM, he has to go.
I can deal with. Again, the biggest problem with it is team building. And that's the biggest no-no, what I just said. You don't do that. Negotiate against yourself, pay more money than market value, and your best player, like we talked about, be a concern, and double down and just try to make that work forever. We're going to sacrifice coaches and players and the whole team because I picked this guy 5 and I'm never going to back down for it, and I'm going to make sure he works, and so what if the team falls apart doing it? So, this is Flores got wasted the first time around because of Chris Greer, and he had the owner's ear. So, yeah, I look at it that way. And there's some other contracts and things there that I don't agree with on the football team either. So, yeah, I would be more in favor of that than firing Mike McDaniel.
All right, third thing being said is Tyreek Hill should be traded.
Yeah, well, ding, 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 back to the GM, and yes. We gave him a fucking contract where we can't trade him, or it totally ruins our football team. So we're having a discussion here, and it's laying out for you really plain and day. They're paying Jalen Ramsey like he's the top corner in football.
Crazy.
Nobody thinks Jalen Ramsey's even close in that discussion in football. Nobody. He's a really good defensive secondary piece. To be paid like he's an island shutdown corner? Like, what? Are you kidding me? I mean, no. So, yeah, there's a lot of issues there, and I could dive into a bunch of other roster moves and things that I don't agree with there.
You also have Jalen Waddle, who I think is like in the top 7 of wide receivers being paid also, which is a problem when you have Tyreek Hill also in there. Like 2 of the top
with these
7
guys.
Or whatever wide receivers is crazy when he's not
exactly
really
the offensive line issues. Waddle, he's been injured and all that, and I like Waddle, but yeah, do I think they overpaid him a little bit? Yeah, certainly I do. It's certainly I'm not in love with some of the contracts and the way they've built the roster totally.
Just back to the Chiefs for a second. Andy Reid said Carson Wentz should be starting somewhere in the NFL. Do you agree?
No, I don't agree with that.
No.
Well, Andy knows how to pump up his players and get the team to believe. And I mean, Andy can maybe make him look like a starting quarterback. And like we've seen Carson Wentz look good. Let's not forget that, right? I mean, he has done that. But it's all the other stuff in between and how he's liked in the locker room and his ability to communicate with players. That was an issue. Some of the dumbest turnovers you've ever seen in the history of football to go on top of that. So he has starting caliber potential and traits. It's just that it's been a long time since he's been able to put all that together.
Before we get to drones, Chris, help me out with this because the NFC is wide open. Okay, this is as wide open as a conference has been in quite some time. So tell me right now, if I tell you one of these teams makes it out of the NFC to the Super Bowl, if you'll be surprised by any of them. Lions, Eagles, Vikings, Packers, Bucks, Rams.
Oh, you want to know what's odd? I mean, Lions and Eagles, I surely expect them.
Right.
Green Bay, I do think is talented enough to be in the Super Bowl. Like, no doubt. They are not outclassed by the Eagles or the Lions as far as talent's considered. Tampa's dangerous.
Yes.
To where I would say, I don't know if I think they're a Super Bowl team, really, but the way this playoffs could shake out and you play the Lions with the defensive injuries like you talked about, could I see them winning some kind of shootout type of football game? And the Rams, too, that I believed in that way? I could see any of those four. Oddly enough, and what I was going to say is the Vikings are the one team I think I'd be the most shocked by. I do. I know. Isn't that weird? I know. I don't even – it's funny you're saying it, but I think, I'm rooting for Sam Darnold, but I got to see it to believe it, I guess, is what I want to see a little bit more.
Of course.
Okay?
Yeah.
The defense – is really well coached. I question whether they have enough real playmakers and big-time guys that can make some plays against these high-quality teams when it really counts in those moments. So I think those are the two things I worry about. And their run game is solid, but it's a little bit up and down. And I just think there's some teams they're going to have issues with there in that department. So, yeah, the Vikings are the one, it's crazy, as good as they are, that I question whether they can get to the Super Bowl, yeah.
We're going to doubt them all the way until they hoist the trophy.
I think so, right? Right. I mean, it's going to be one of those for
because
sure.
I'm totally with you. Last one on the way out. We'll get you out of here. Matt LaFleur. Matt LaFleur is what I was trying to say. How come when we talk about the best coaches of the NFL, no one says Matt LaFleur?
I don't know. It's ridiculous. He should have probably been coach of the year last year. He certainly should be at the top of the conversation now. He's kind of constantly disrespected in that conversation. I'm a huge fan of Matt LaFleur. Yeah. I mean, I think, having the guts to change the D coordinator this year, right, what he's done with the Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love, and dealing with all of that and everything that came there. And then, I mean, look at their offense. They can do everything. I mean, they're where they are. And like I've told you guys a few times, their quarterbacks played B- football the whole year. Now it's starting to look like it's starting to go this way, but they're tough. They run the ball. And like when you do watch them, even though the quarterback hasn't played good, you go, well, he was open. He just missed him. Or, that was it. So they're explosive. And I think they're going to be dangerous come January.
I asked you so many Packer questions this week because I think the Packers are winning the Super Bowl. That's why. So
I had the Packers going to the Super Bowl this year. I did. Now we'll see where it goes, but I do think they have that type of talent. They're that kind of team, and they can physically hang in there and then some against teams like the Eagles and Detroit that I look at to be as some of the most physical teams in the sport.
Mikey, you had something there?
Yeah, I was just wondering when you moved off your Jets versus Bears Super Bowl to get the Packers in there.
It is curious.
Yeah. Seriously. That would have been torture.
I was doing a thing, Chris. I was with the Golics.
You're always doing a thing.
A kickoff in Kansas City. That was his prediction.
That's all I do is things. Well said, Mikey. PFT with Mike Florio on Button Podcast. Football Night in America. A Merry Christmas to the Sims family, to Big Fucker, to your wife Danielle, to all the kids. Merry Christmas to you, Chris Sims. We love you. We do.
Thank you. I love you guys too. Happy holidays. Have fun. Enjoy. We'll talk next Thursday. We'll talk some Christmas and some stories, and I'll have some for you. The big thing for me is, will I stay awake to actually help my wife put the gifts under the Christmas tree? Because last year was the first time in 10 years that I didn't drunkenly pass out and say, see you later, and just go lay in the bed and good night for the night. Yeah. We'll see if I can do it. 2 years in a row.